Hello everybody, I'm And Marvellous Videos and welcome back to another video on OMSI 2. You join me feeling the buzz once again. After the last video, I've still got the buzz about the B network and the B network buzzers. And we're going to be taking a spin in another one. This time we are on Yorkshire Counties 3.0. We are at Ashbury Marketplace. We're going to be doing the 17 service from here to Charter Road Estate. Initially, the idea was I wanted a diamond bus livered one with first seats inside. And we're going to do that. And then I saw this repaint. Saw the stickers on it and did a little bit of research and found that it was quite an interesting vehicle that I'm going to explain in this video. So yeah, we'll take this on the 17 service with the B network on the side. For reference, in real life, this is currently, and the emphasis on the phrase currently, a sort of Diamond Bus Northwest vehicle. Diamond Bus Northwest won in Tranche 1. They didn't win the main network, so they lost their main Bolton operation, but won the smaller franchise. So at the moment operate a lot of the old local services around Bolton routes that operators such as Visions Bus and Arriva used to operate. So those kind of routes. The not so frequent through the housing estate kind of services, not your main direct arterial routes that are quite frequent. So we'll get the bus.
System pressure, okay. Audio working, September 15th, 2019.
And then we will set up our destination blind, see if it works. I'm going to take that as a no. Okay, yeah, I will take that as a no. So there we go. I think that's the right one. 17 Ashbury Marketplace Star B. That may or may not be the right one. I'll actually have to put the arrows on because I genuinely cannot remember where this bus stops. I believe it's here, judging by all the people stood about, but always best to have the arrows on just in case. Now, in the game, the 17 service is run by First Yorkshire, sort of replicating First South Yorkshire with the lovely Sheffield blue livery. So a few of you will recognise the Reg SK17HHL because this specific vehicle, to the best of my knowledge, used to actually be a demonstrator. It was one of the later Streetlite demonstrators because they did have their earlier batches of Streetlites, 2013 for South Yorkshire, Midlands, stuff like that, but quite a few. But afterwards, they sort of started pumping the wagon of PR again. And in 2017, they got themselves a new demonstrator in the form of this one. Now, this one in real life has some strange seats inside, a very, very strange seat style. Never caught on, unsurprisingly, but really, really strange seats. It had quite a few sort of dolled up features of it. It was in a white livery with sort of red and grey bands flying around it. So it did look quite nice. Locally in Yorkshire, it demonstrated with a few very random operators, including Square Peg and Yorkshire Tiger. Yorkshire Tiger, in the end, opting for MMCs. After they did the demonstration of the MMCs and the demonstrations of the idea behind the MMCs, they arrived after a demonstration period of the 65 plate MMC that existed, and then as soon as the MMCs had rocked up, the Streetlite showed up. The idea behind the Streetlite was it was going to replace the Optare Versas. Now Arriva had then decided by that point that they were going to shut the operation, so unsurprisingly no Streetlite showed up for the replacement to the Versas. Would have been incredibly strange though for a small operation like Flying Tiger to have half of its fleet Streetlite and half of its fleet MMC. I can't imagine that that would have been quite easy to maintain, really. It probably would have been easy to have one type of bus. But, hey-ho, these things happen. And it was demonstrated there, and again demonstrated with Square Peg, that should give a bit of an idea as to the variety of vehicle that, variety of operator, should I say, that this vehicle ended up with. So this specific example, just like all of the other Wright bus demonstrators, was bought by Diamond Bus and Rotala Group, and has since been sent down to the West Midlands. Now the livery it's in at the moment is the West Midlands Bus Partnership livery. So the livery that routes that Diamond and National Express West Midlands operate on, the routes that they share and they coordinate timetables on, the vehicles are painted into this livery. And the idea is all the vehicles look the same, the ticketing is accepted, and it provides a frequent corridor for passengers. So that's the thinking behind it, and all of them are still in the West Midlands, except this one. Now, because this one's unique, it's a Streetlite. I believe the rest of what they use on there is a mix of Eclipses. They have a B8 RLE on there as well, and stuff like that. So this one is a little bit of an oddball. And with Diamond taking over Tranche 1, the smaller franchise, and requiring vehicles of a certain youth for the operation whilst the MMCs arrived, they called upon the transfer of Streetlites up to the operation, basically to make sure that in the past Diamond had quite a varied and random fleet. So the idea behind it was to basically do it so that they had a relatively standard fleet. That is what they have achieved. So they acquired quite a lot of the old ex-First Bus leased Streetlites from Leicester and South Yorkshire. Eventually all of those vehicles are set to go down to the Midlands and to replace some of the older vehicles still in operation there. So that's why quite a few of them have had the red diamond applied already, but have had it all stickered over with B network. The idea is once all of these MMCs, these brand new 73 plates, settle in for the B network, that the Streetlites in their entirety will go down to the Midlands. But for now, this one is the only oddball one in this livery, running around with B network stickers on the side. So if you do get a chance to sample this vehicle before it does return back down to the Midlands, I would recommend you do it. Get a few photos of it because it is a random one. So I mean, it's the only time at the moment in Bolton that you can go on, I believe, all you can go17 the Street Deck and the Streetlite based demonstrators from the same era. So very, very cool. The 17 plate Decker is now with Go North West, still in Diamond Bus livery, and this one is still with Diamond on loan from the Midlands. So it's quite a cool opportunity to be able to get both of them in one clean swoop if you do get the chance. So pretty cool things. Unfortunately, you can't get the old 64 plate demonstrator in anymore now. That was a Vision Bus vehicle, and Vision's hardly run any services anymore, so you don't have the opportunity to get that, unfortunately. Check bus height. Yeah, I think we'll be fine. We're not a double-decker. So always remember, do not take a double-decker on the 17. That must always be remembered. Do not take one on the 17. I mean, 14'7", you could probably get some of the lower height ones down, but it depends on how low height they are and how realistically low height they are. So I think it's really, really random because I did a bit of research into this. this vehicle, because I didn't believe it existed. I thought it was some sort of bus times tracking malarkey error thing. And I did some research, and it is genuinely running around Bolton in full West Midlands partnership livery with B Network on the side. So it's important to note as well that with the franchising, it wasn't all plain sailing from the beginning. Now, as you can see with this, there's this impression that quite a lot of the photos in sort of the non-bus related media showcased all of the buses being in yellow and all of them having all the top features and stuff like that. And it wasn't the case. Sort of arriving on the first day, I would say a good third, if not more, of the Go North West vehicles on the day. They were all loan vehicles, similar state to this, in a livery from a different opco, running around with B Network sticker on the side, that kind of thing. Diamond, exactly the same, because all of their vehicles are in Diamond livery. They're not in B Network livery at the moment, so they were having the same thing, where they were all running around in Diamond blue. So it wasn't, as the media portrayed, absolutely amazing from the beginning. I mean, I remember on the day as well. If you haven't already, do go and check out my video on the B Network first day, first full day of operations, because they started on a Sunday. I went up on the Monday. So do go and have a look at that video if you haven't already, because it is quite an important showcase of showing how it actually was. Basically, because unfortunately on the first day they had quite a lot of teething issues. This is why I really want to visit again, because that's my only impression of it at the moment. And I remember when Diamond Bus took over, first bus in Bolton, we're going back to about 2017 there, and when they took them over, the first week was pretty dire, and then you go back about a month or two later and it was vastly improved. Now, I've given it a little bit more time purely because I've been quite busy in my personal life, and it was a bigger operation that was taken over, much bigger operation. So I wanted to give it quite a bit longer to settle down and everything to settle in its place. So as I say, that is hopefully a visit coming up very soon at some point. Oh, I'm in the wrong lane. There we go. But I do want to revisit Diamond purely because I want to go on all of the First South Yorkshire Streetlites. That is the main reason I want to do them. Because I'm not willing to do them on a day in the Midlands, because when I'm in the Midlands, I like going on Tridents and B7s while they're still about. So I want to try and get them up in the Northwest. I do also, as I say, want to do a focus video on Diamond specifically, purely because in my last video I didn't do a single Diamond vehicle. I just did Go Northwest ones purely because I'd spent that long photographing the vehicles on the day. I only wanted a short little trip out, so I just took a trip out on a route that I knew quite well. So that was basically the idea behind that. So hopefully I can do a trek out on some of the Diamond routes as well. That will be quite a nice contrast. So I want to do that, and I do also want to do a little bit of focus on the east side of Manchester, the areas involved in Tranche 2, because that's happening very soon. So do expect quite a few Manchester videos, probably in a month or so. Expect quite a lot of them as we do build up to Tranche 2. At the time that I record this in real life, I had the pleasure of driving an E200 again, quite impromptu, but it was an incredible pleasure. Really was. Really was nice to have a driver. One, I mean, I'd mentioned it in the previous video, how much I do enjoy driving them, and I had the pleasure again. Just by chance, by random fluke, I had the chance yesterday. That was incredibly nice. So, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Really did. So, I mean, as I did say in the previous video as well, yes, from an enthusiast perspective, they're probably not the best vehicles. And yes, if you do work at a depot where you drive E200 after E200 after E200, I can understand why they may get a little bit tedious. I fully understand that. But if you work at an operation where you have a vast variety of vehicles and bits like that, you do tend to appreciate the E200s for just how easy they are to drive, how easy they are to manoeuvre, how easy all the dashboard is. It's stuff that you do really come to appreciate. I mean, yes, if you had the lucky chance of driving Trident's day after day and Olympian's day after day, then yes, there is absolutely no contrast. However, on the modern bus scale, I thoroughly enjoy driving E200s. I've yet to have the pleasure to drive a Streetlite. That is something I want to do at some point. I'm unsure how I intend to achieve that, but I do want to drive a Streetlite at some point, just for the contrast, because I do praise the E200s a lot, because I have driven an E200 for a full diagram now and an MMC the same, but I haven't driven a Streetlite, so I do think it's incredibly important to have the contrast in place. Because you do get quite a lot of enthusiast perspective, but the perspective of an enthusiast versus the perspective of a driver when you've got a bus for a full 10-hour shift can be quite different. I mean, I've known it in the past where sort of I've had vehicles that from an enthusiast perspective are really good. I mean, even I've in the past, before I started driving, went out of my way to sample them, but I found that if you've had them for quite a few hours, I don't need to stop you, do I? I thought somebody had rung the bell. Well, when you're driving them for 5 hours or something like that, you find that from a driving perspective, they're not actually the best vehicles, they're not actually the nicest vehicles, and you'd much prefer, again, something like a Trident 2 E400 or an E200 or something like that. Purely because when you're driving an E200, you can relax a little bit. I mean, that's what I found, because you're not, the standard E200 is just lovely. The length isn't too long that you're worrying about a tail swing, so you're nice with that. Your dashboard is incredibly easy to sort of get around, so you're not having to worry about that while you're driving. You can open and close your doors as you stop, and you can close them as you set off, so it saves a bit of time there without applying handbrake, stuff like that. Again, bits like destination controllers, nice and easy. Manoeuvrability is nice and easy. They tend to be relatively quick vehicles as well. So I'm just a fan of them. I just really am a fan of them. It's incredibly random, I know, but I am just a fan of E200s. So E200s and E400s are top vehicles to drive at the moment. Although I do love a VDL DB300. From that is the enthusiast point speaking. I absolutely love driving a certain VDL DB300. I must say. So minus that, it is what it is at the end of the day. But yes, I do enjoy my VDL. But I do love the 200s. So. There we go, we're nearly there now. Unlike in real life, I don't tend to worry about the timing points and bits like that when I'm driving here. For those of you that may have just started watching my OMSI 2 content, purely because I like to play in a simulator in the way that I can absolutely floor it around the route. I know that none of you lot want to sit there with me at timing points for 5 minutes. Do that in the real world. Don't want to do it here. And we all like to have a little bit of a speedy run in some buses, see what they can do. So I do think it's really important as well in OMSI that we've documented this period. As we move into more franchising, it's important to always remember the bits when it first started, when it wasn't necessarily the perfect thing. It's important to remember the evolution of these things, especially as more franchises take place. We need to remember that if it starts off rough, it may not necessarily be rough forever. It might get better. I mean, as I say, I'm commenting that having not done another trip over to Manchester yet. I do need to do that. However, I do feel there's an importance in remembering that it will, at the end of the day, progressively get better as operators get used to it, staff get used to it, stuff like that. Over time, over a long period of time, it will get better. But again, I'm still one that believes in the London model rather than the Greater Manchester one. I understand the Greater Manchester one from a council perspective is a lot easier to run because they don't have to get involved in creating a department that gives out tenders. However, I do feel it's incredibly important to have that department. I really, really do. I think it's important to have operators bidding for routes, the sort of sanctions put in place that if you win a route, you have to provide a new vehicle. And if you win a route, you have to run it on a certain frequency. I believe with that way, it means that people get the best service. They get looked after with brand new vehicles, and they get people specifically looking at their service, not looking at an operation as a whole, but looking at their specific service to see what they need. So instead of having all the corridors run every 15 minutes, that's what we've currently got in West Yorkshire pretty much, with First Bus and Arriva having to reduce down, they'd actually look at each specific service and understand that maybe a service such as the 148s, 149s to Pontefract and Nottingham may need to run every 15 minutes as an example. But the service between Wakefield and Leeds, the 110, may have to run every 7 minutes or even every 10 minutes, something like that. And that's the contrast between the Manchester model and the London model. Yes, it involves a little bit more money to achieve. However, you get a much higher quality service over time. You get much higher quality vehicles, and you get more people using it. You get a lot more people using it because they feel like their service, their corridor, their vital connection to work, to school, to hospital, to the shops is maintained, is looked after, is cared for. And that when we're going into this franchising model, when taxpayers' money and bits like that is being spent on it, it's incredibly important to have that effect. Otherwise, you are using taxpayers' money to invest in a service that they're probably not going to use because they're being given tired buses, they're being shoved in a corner, and sometimes the buses won't show up, and there were no sanctions for that. That's basically doing what they did before, only now the buses are painted yellow, or blue, or red. So this is the argument at the moment, and this is the concern, really, is that we don't want to go down the road where that model is made acceptable, if that makes sense. That at the moment is the way that we're going. It is going to be made acceptable, and it's worrying a little bit, really. It is worrying. So, but I needed to get rid of that. There we go. It is worrying a little bit, but we'll see. Hopefully, the likes of people in West Yorkshire see sense and understand that maybe, just maybe, route by route therapy for West Yorkshire is what's needed in order to improve the network as a whole. But anyway, on that note, that is the end of the 17 route and the end of the video. I really hope you've enjoyed this one. If you have, then do be sure to click that like button so that more people can find it and enjoy like you have. And if you haven't already, do be sure to subscribe to the Bus Videos YouTube channel for more content from the simulation section twice a week. On here, we also have an archive of nearly 7,000 backseat and engine-focused public transport videos from the UK and beyond. With buses, trams, trains and more, there's some fun on there for everyone, with an additional 21 of those videos added every week. Once again, I'd like to thank you all for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed this one, and I will see you all in the next video, mate. Bye for now. Bye.